Welp, we do have an update here, and it looks like Kirk Herbstreit has just completely snapped on these people in a massive, long, multi-paragraph tweet. Kirk Herbstreit, he's angry FSU fans accusing him, of being biased, ESPN being in bed with the SEC for choosing Alabama over FSU, and Herbstreit responding with this long because Alabama is better. He's very angry. You can see all the exclamation points. So is Texas, so is Michigan, so is Washington, so is Oregon, so is Georgia. Well, listen, Kirk, if you actually want to go deep into it, so is Ohio State. But he is, very angry about this, the whole thing with FSU. He has been feuding with Florida State fans. And the one thing I'll say, this really goes back to before Jordan Travis even got injured, because there was a College Game Day show, on Saturday morning. I think this was the Saturday morning before Jordan Travis suffered the injury, where Kirk Herbstreit floated the idea that FSU might miss the playoff if they go undefeated with Jordan Travis healthy. That's something I would have to disagree with. I think if Jordan Travis was healthy and they win out and they win comfortably in their games, there's no way you can leave that team out, considering Jordan Travis being kind of like fifth or sixth in terms of the Heisman race. They're undefeated. They're ACC champions. Even though the ACC is not good, I think that's another thing that college football fans have to start doing a better job of. Not every single college football conference championship is created equal. Some conferences are harder than others. It's like Big 12 champions versus Big 10 champions versus SEC champions. The conferences are not created equal. It's easier to win some conferences than it is others. The idea that a conference championship gives you just an automatic in seems a little ridiculous to me. But yeah, Kirk Herbstreit, you can see, I'm not going to read all of this, but it seems like he left out a lot of frustrations. He did say at the end, he wishes FSU nothing but the best. That's a smart thing to do, just to cover yourself if you're going to go on a rant against them. But I mean, to start that by saying, Georgia is better. I mean, I guess most people do probably agree Georgia is better than them. Oregon is better than them. That's the whole idea of, and let me see if I can have, this is a good tweet. If the college football playoff really wants the four best teams, they are Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon. Three of these teams lost their most recent game and aren't in, but all would be favorites on a neutral field against any team not on this list. So you can dispute Oregon, I believe. Number one, Ohio State, they have the quarterback situation now, but if they were in the playoff, McCord would not be transferring. So Ohio State, in terms of their FPI, is number two. I believe Vegas power rankings have Ohio State at number four. You could possibly argue Alabama over Ohio State or Oregon. That's the argument you can make. When it comes to the four best teams, it's certainly Michigan, it's certainly Georgia, and Oregon would still be over Washington. That's the crazy thing. People, I was saying I still think Oregon is better than Washington, even after losing to them twice. I'm not saying they're more deserving than Washington to be in the playoff. Absolutely not. Washington beat them, they deserve to be in. But just in general, if you took those two teams on a neutral field and matched them up 10 times, I think Oregon wins probably 6 or 7 of them. That's just my opinion. Again, that's not me saying Oregon should be in, but I do think just pound for pound, based on how Washington finished the season, all their close games, and Oregon was completely dominant in all of their games, I do think they are a more complete team. But either way, it's the criteria has always been, and I try and tell people this, and no one ever gets it. This has never been a talking point. It's always been a combination of best and most deserving. It's not only the best teams, it's not only the most deserving teams. If it was only the most deserving teams, FSU would be in. If it was only the best teams, Georgia would be in. It's a combination of the two. They mash it together, and that's how they create a combination of best and most deserving. They weigh both of them, and they use both of them to determine. It's not one over the other. They use both, and you can say, well, that's a problem, and I agree, because it's a big gray area. Hopefully, and this is really what should happen with the 12-team playoff expanding, you are going to be dealing with who's going to get that final spot, the 10th, 11th spot. The 12th spot is very likely going to be reserved for the group of 5 auto bid, but in general, we're going to start arguing about 2 and 3 lost teams, which is going to be a lot easier to stomach than leaving out an undefeated team that won a Power 5 conference, which is what we did in terms of Florida State. And we do have an update on some transfer portal stuff. Cameron Ward on his recruitment, planning on visiting Florida State and Miami. So it looks like Ohio State possibly officially out for Cameron Ward. My guess is Miami is getting him for sure. It's probably going to be a multi-million-dollar NIL deal, and it makes perfect sense. Miami needs to spend money. They need to start producing on the field. 9-10 win seasons for Mario Cristobal, and obviously quarterback is the most important position. So I would be shocked if he went anywhere other than Miami. I think Florida State will get DJ Uiagalelei, who is visiting there this weekend. Now, if Florida State decides to drop a major bag on Cam Ward, possibly he could go there. I just don't see it. It seems the way things are setting up right now, and a lot of these rumors have proven to be correct, it seems like Ward is trending to Florida State, or excuse me, it seems like Ward is trending to Miami, and DJU is trending to Florida State. And then I saw this. Arizona State QB Drew Pine will transfer back to Notre Dame this spring to finish his undergrad, and then he will transfer to a new program in June. I mean, how many times can we... Now, listen, to be fair to this kid, he's just transferring for academics, right? And it makes sense, you want to get your degree from Notre Dame, we get it, but it's just so strange with all these transfers and stuff, and I've done videos on it, on how ridiculous it is, and how I believe based on the transfer portal rule, or excuse me, based on the immediate eligibility transfer rules right now, you could have a situation where a player transfers to 3 different schools and faces no penalty of sitting out. Because think about it. If your head coach leaves, you get one transfer free of charge, right? Then you just get another transfer free of charge baked in because of the new rules. And then when you graduate, you could do a grad transfer free of charge. So you could play at 3 different schools completely free of charge. I mean, Dylan Gabriel did it. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel is now at 3 different schools, so it is pretty remarkable when it comes to the rules and really kind of more of a free agency in terms of college football. And then this is another thing, this is not surprising at all based on the situation with Arch Manning. Malik Murphy entering the portal. He's got a big arm. He's got some talent. There's been rumors UCLA and Ohio State possibly. I do not think Ohio State would pursue Murphy. It just seems like Murphy is going to want to go somewhere where he's guaranteed the starting job, considering he's going to be an upperclassman. Ohio State, there's no way they'd be able to guarantee him the starting job based on what he's done. I mean, he's got a big arm. Kind of reminds me of Joe Milton a little bit. We will see where he ends up going. I would be shocked if it's Ohio State. It seems like Ohio State is going to roll with what they have right now, especially with the recent developments of what's going on with Cam Ward. But either way, I did want to mention that. And then this is just something to talk about. This is a way too early 2024 top 25. I saw this just on, scrolling through the For You page on X. You can see Alabama. So how they do these rankings, it's the same exact thing every year. If you're a good team and you're returning your quarterback, you're automatically going to be like top 3 or 4. Alabama returning Jalen Milroe, Texas returning Quinn Ewers. Oh yeah, the other thing I forgot to say, how about Texas being able to keep Arch Manning on the bench? You know what? The Quinn Ewers dynamic is really interesting because he said he was returning, but he said he was returning before he had that crazy conference championship game against Oklahoma State where he threw for 300 yards in the first half. Imagine he lights it up in the playoff. You would have to think he would leave. Yeah, so I wouldn't say 100% right now Quinn Ewers is returning. I know he said he was going to, but if he lights it up in the playoff and you could be a top 10 pick, you got to go. So that could be an interesting situation, but let's say Ewers stays, which most people expect him to. Looks like Arch Manning is going to sit behind him for another season, which is extremely rare for a 5-star, top 5 overall player. But Arch Manning, he's probably not going to be starting until his 3rd year of college football. There was a lot of speculation he would transfer to start somewhere else. Doesn't look like that's the case. I do think Arch Manning's a bit overrated because of his family name, but listen, he hasn't played yet. You got to give him a chance. Georgia at number 3, returning Carson Beck. They've got crazy recruiting talent, crazy defensive depth. Michigan at number 4. I don't know about Michigan. I don't know who their quarterback's going to be. I probably have Oregon over them at this point just because of the uncertainty surrounding J.J. McCarthy very likely going to the draft, possibly going to be a mid-first round pick. Oregon getting Dylan Gabriel in the portal. They're going to be really good next year, their first year in the Big Ten. Ohio State is always top 5, top 6, pretty much no matter what, even with quarterback uncertainty. How about Utah? Yeah, there's going to be a big narrative next year for Utah with Cam Rising coming back. Ole Miss with Jackson Dart coming back. FSU at number 9, possibly with DJU. You do have Penn State at number 10. Great defense. Unfortunately, they can never beat Ohio State or Michigan. They do have Drew Aller coming back. Missouri at number 11. They're going to be returning Luther Burden. I'm not going to go through this entire list, but Arizona at number 13. They're a solid team. They're going to be returning a lot. They're going to have some continuity. Notre Dame at 15 with Riley Leonard. LSU. I wonder who LSU actually is going to get. Maybe Dante Moore. I've heard nothing about Dante Moore recently. So maybe LSU makes a splurge for Dante Moore, or maybe they stay in-house. I saw Heisman odds updated, and one of LSU's backup quarterbacks was on the way too early Heisman list for next year. So maybe they stay in-house and go with one of their previous 4-star recruits. Either way, we will see. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.